Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed your lunch and we kindly ask you to please take your seat. At this time, we would like to welcome to the room our honorable panelists, the Presidents of the Republic of Chile, Colombia, and Peru, and the Ministry of Economy of the Republic of Mexico. We will begin the second part of our summit by introducing our moderator, Dr. Moises Nain. He is a senior associate of the Carnegie Endowment. He is also the chief international columnist for El País and Italy's largest newspaper, La Repubblica, and respected columnist for the Financial Times. He also produces a weekly TV show called Efecto Naim that airs to the US and Latin America through NTN 24. Please welcome our moderator, Moises Nain.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a privilege. This is a different initiative. We have had many attempts at integration, but this is trying to be different. It's trying to be very concrete and pragmatic. And one example of that is that today, instead of a set of speeches, we are going to have a conversation, both with the presidents, among themselves, and with me, and with you. We will start with the president pro tempore of the alliance. As you know, there is a rotation. The different presidents of different countries will rotate in coordinating these initiatives. The president pro tempore now is, the country is Colombia, and the president of Colombia is the president of the alliance. And so I have asked President Santos to give us a few initial words to give some context about the ambitions and ways of thinking about the alliance. President Santos.
Thank you very much, Moises. I want to salute my colleagues, President Sebastián Piñera, Ollantamala, Minister of the Economy of Mexico. We're very sorry not to have President Peña Nieto. I spoke to him yesterday. He has very good reasons why he's not here today. We hope that he can handle these problems that nature has presented to Mexico with success. But I know that he is very well represented in the Minister of the Economy of Mexico. And thank you all for being here. This is, in a way, the presentation in the American Society of the Pacific Alliance. I was asking my colleagues if the custom of presenting your daughters when they're 15 is still maintained in their respective countries. Well, we are only 2.5 years old, not 15, but I think we are making a presentation with pride, because I think we have achieved more than any other integration process in the history of Latin America, and we have achieved that in a very short amount of time. we are trying to be, in a way, successful and unique. And successful and unique needs a series of conditions. First of all, any integration process has to have identification in its purposes, the way you think, the way you envision the future, principles, values. And one of the common denominators that these four countries have is this. We share values, we share principles, we share our development models, and that's why we have been successful in taking the correct decisions and making those decisions effective in a rapid way, fast. There has been political will from the very start of the creation of the Pacific Alliance. The political will has been there, and this is fundamental for any process as this one to work. Why have we have been successful in this first 2.5 years? Because the facts, what these four countries represent, also make us a very attractive process. Four countries that are the highest performers in economic terms of the whole of Latin America, I would say of the Americas in general. Our economies are very similar in terms of the performance of the indicators. We are growing on average 5% or more. We have all of them fiscal rules, therefore fiscal responsibility is part of our way of handling our economies. We represent 35% of GDP of the whole of Latin America, 50% of trade, and that is something which is important. We are free traders, we believe in free trade, we believe in market-oriented policies, we believe in foreign investment. We know that foreign investment is necessary to maintain and sustain our growth. We have similar rates of debt, relatively low, and other countries have a similar percentage, 22, 23%, and we represent 33% of the exports of the whole region. We are trying to maintain the dynamism that we have been able to inject in the process through political will. I think that's another unique aspect of what is happening. The presidents are in constant and permanent conversation and consultation with the private sector. What is happening in the world, what is needed here, and we push forward, and we expect results from our bureaucracies very fast. And this, I think, has helped us reach what we have right now, which is a very successful integration process that, of course, has a lot of way still to go. We need to make our integration more profound, to consolidate our integration, those small but very important aspects of our trade facilitation, or to make investment easier, to stimulate the productive chains. In all those fronts, we must continue to advance. But here we are in our debut with you. We expect the American entrepreneurs to be interested in the Pacific Alliance. I think we are a very important market, 210 million young, relatively young consumers. The market that we represent is a growing market, an important market in all of our countries. We are making tremendous efforts to strengthen our middle class, and that means more consumers. that means more demand. And this is another aspect that makes us especially attractive. And we, of course, want to play an important role in the world economy. The sheer size of our market and of our economies makes us an important player nowadays. And the more we have this kind of rapport with the business world of the world or the United States, I think we will perform better. So with these comments, I simply pass the word to Moises, and he said this is not going to be a series of speeches of each president, but more of a conversation. We thought that would be a more illustrative way to get you informed of what the Pacific Alliance really is and where we will be, hopefully, in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, President Santos. And the conversation... And the conversation will be both in English and in Spanish, and you all have simultaneous translations equipment in your tables. Presidente Ollanta Humala, una pregunta. Usted ha mencionado que parte de la integración tiene que ser también la integración y el compartir buenas prácticas, prácticas de alto nivel, de altos estándares, para que se pueda homogeneizar muchas de las actividades empresariales entre los países. ¿Por qué no nos habla de eso?
Bueno, yo creo que es importante hoy día este espacio de la Alianza del Pacífico, porque somos países con economías abiertas, potentes, dinámicas, y que estamos cada día imprimiendo calidad a los servicios que ya estamos proveyendo como Estado. Y en ese sentido, creo que un tema que sería importante avanzar en la Alianza del Pacífico es la creación de estándares de calidad en lo que es el tema medioambiental, en lo que es el tema de provisión de servicios, y de esta manera generar que los productos que se elaboren en el mercado de la Alianza del Pacífico tengan un reconocimiento a nivel internacional de su calidad. Y para esto creo que es fundamental aplicar políticas en lo que es educación, en lo que es capacitación, el desarrollo de un plan nacional de innovación, el fortalecimiento de la ciencia y la tecnología, es decir, crear un sistema regional de calidad, donde esté involucrado el concepto de metrología, y otros conceptos, porque hoy día somos conscientes que las principales barreras para el ingreso de un producto a un mercado no son los aranceles, sino es la calidad. Un producto puede ingresar a un mercado, pero puede ser rechazado dentro de ese mercado si es que el consumidor no encuentra calidad. Yo creo que eso es hoy día lo que debe marcar la diferencia de lo que se produzca en el interior de la Alianza del Pacífico.
Gracias, presidente, muy interesante. Presidente Piñera, los vecinos y los otros países de la región que también tienen intentos y acuerdos de integración han estado tratando de interpretar esta alianza, y algunos la ven como una reacción a lo que ya existe. Su colega, el presidente de Ecuador, Correa, acaba de decir esto: queremos mucho a Colombia, Perú, Chile y México, pero se enfrentan dos visiones del mundo: el neoliberalismo, el libre comercio, y contra aquellos que creemos en el socialismo, en zonas libres, pero no para el libre comercio, sino libre de hambre, libre de pobreza. ¿Es la Alianza del Pacífico una reacción? ¿Está ¿cómo se compagina esto con el ALBA, por ejemplo?
Well, of course, there are different views, different approaches towards the world, towards development within Latin America, and we respect that. And we have learned to live with our differences. And that's something which is very important. But the Pacific Alliance is not against anybody, and I want to make that crystal clear. The Pacific Alliance, as was mentioned by President Santos, is a very young but very successful experience. because here we have 4 countries which are the fastest growing countries, not only in Latin America. Probably we are among the fastest growing countries in the world. But we share not only values and principles, our commitment to democracy, our commitment to free trade and to social market economy, free enterprise, innovation, entrepreneurship. Those are the basic principles that I think are the main forces behind the Pacific Alliance. It's an alliance with more than 210 million people. Our joint GNP accounts to more than 2,000 billions. Therefore, together, we are the 9th, maybe the 8th largest economy in the world, because according to our growth rate of this year, we will move from the 9th to the 8th position. And it's also an alliance where we have the same approach towards free trade and towards how to integrate our countries to the world. And it's much more than a free trade zone. We have just reached an agreement by which we have liberalized 92% of the trade between our countries with 0 tariff, and we will get to 99% at the most 7 years from now. So what is important, this is not against anybody. On the contrary, we are trying to join forces to take advantage of what economic integration means, and also to join forces to penetrate other markets. For instance, we are opening joint embassies and joint commercial offices in many countries whereby each country by itself couldn't have done it. But at the same time, I would say it's an open alliance. It's not that there are 4 countries here and we will be 4 forever. It's an open alliance, but with some conditions. Because, at least that's my opinion, countries that want to join in will have to share the same values, because otherwise we will put at risk the main success of this alliance, which is based on like-minded country and common approaches to development and trade and to the world. So I would like to tell President Correa that we respect his points of view, but we don't have to interpret this as a war within Latin America. Each country has the right to choose its own way. We have chosen ours, and we're very happy with that. And the best proof of that is that this alliance has been extremely successful. And this is not only our opinion. In terms of foreign investment, these 4 countries are attracting most of the foreign investment coming to Latin America, because I think that this alliance is not open to other countries. It's an alliance between the 4 countries, but open to the world. We do believe in free trade with all the countries of the world, and that's part of the philosophy of this alliance.
Thank you. Can I add something?
Please.
I want to underline what President Piñera has just said about this process not being a process that excludes or is against other processes of this sort. But maybe President Correa is right in terms of differentiating ways of managing the economy, and in the end, we are in a healthy competition. What model will be more successful in fighting poverty? What model will be more successful in fighting hunger? We, in these 4 countries, I think, have performed socially much better in the past, in the recent past, than other countries. And we hope that we will continue to perform successfully by lowering poverty, lowering extreme poverty, by lowering inequality. And the indicators are there. Peru, in the last 2 years, have decreased poverty by around 6%, 6.5%. Colombia, a similar percentage, the highest in Latin America. And we have to continue, because we still have too many Peruvians in poverty and too many Colombians in poverty. Chile even lower, but you still, Mexico the same. But it is a healthy competition of what model and what scheme is going to be more successful in bringing prosperity to all of Latin Americans.
Thank you.
By the way, very shortly.
Sí, yo también.
Ah, perdón.
Presidente
Ollanta.
Adelante, presidente
No lo
Humala.
escuché.
Y después.
Y lo digo porque el Perú ha ejercido la presidencia pro tempore de UNASUR y lo que creo que hoy día tenemos en Sudamérica es una integración real con respeto a las diversidades y que además, como lo hemos dicho, hoy día la Alianza del Pacífico es un bloque en el cual alentamos a las fuerzas productivas privadas y no es un bloque político, es un bloque básicamente de fortalecimiento de las fuerzas productivas que se han venido desarrollando, no de ahorita, sino de hace muchos años. Y por lo tanto creo que puede haber diferencias en otros campos, pero lo que estamos haciendo los 4 países integrantes de la Alianza hoy día es alentar y fortalecer a estas fuerzas productivas que nos están ayudando a mejorar nuestros índices de desarrollo humano.
Brevemente, presidente Piñera, usted quería...
There is the idea that there is a conflict between free trade and our war on poverty and extreme inequalities, and I disagree with that. Because at the end of the day, the Pacific Alliance is not an end. It's a mean to achieve other ends, which is basically to get rid of underdevelopment, defeat poverty, and we think that with free trade we will move faster and we will get better results. And that's why I think that this idea that it's either free trade or free of poverty or free of hunger is an idea that I don't agree with.
You're going to have a very interesting conversation with President Correa in your next meetings. Secretary Guajardo, I wanted to ask you about TPP. TPP, of course, is a Trans-Pacific partnership. It's going to be a mega alliance of 12 of the largest countries, trading countries in the Pacific. It starts in the United States and goes down and towards the Pacific to New Zealand and from Japan to Peru. So it's a very ambitious project in which all of your countries, with the exception of Colombia, are already involved. And so tell us a little bit about how is that going. And first, how is that process evolving in the views of Mexico? And how do you reconcile the TPP with the alliance, the Pacific Alliance?
Well, first of all, let me recognize the respects of President Peña to the two presidents present, President Humala, President Santos, President Piñera. Due to natural forces, President Peña Nieto was not able to be here. Therefore, I have the challenging job of being here with 3 aces, and being a minister is not an easy job. But let me tell you that for Mexico, the strategy for foreign trade and foreign policy is extremely relevant. In terms of Alianza Pacifico had represented for Mexico a new stage in the way we relate to Latin America. When President Peña was elected as president in transition, he made his purpose to visit Latin America first before any other continent, and he visited the 3 presidents here exactly before becoming a constitutional president in Mexico, because he understood the relevance of Alianza Pacifico for the strategy of Mexico. In this context, after accomplishing our integration with North America 20 years ago, Mexico requires definitely diversifying our trade and economic relations with the world. As it was stated by the 3 presidents, the developed world is not growing at a high rate. It's emerging economies that are growing faster today in the world. And Mexico needed definitely to integrate in an intelligent way to Asia and Latin America. Alianza Pacifico was the perfect channel to really embrace Latin America and Mexico in this very challenging and ambitious trade agenda. TPP, as you know, Mexico was joined TPP together with Canada. We started negotiations in December. Right after our integration, Japan came into TPP. It is a very ambitious agreement. It is designed to include new areas of trade agreements that are not normally included in trade agreements, like electronic trade, like environment, labor, a very, very high-level charter of intellectual property. And that is making it a very challenging job to finish negotiations. We are going to meet in APEC in the next week to really try to have a view of where we are standing today and how we can approach to a conclusion before the end of the year. But Alianza Pacifico, it is very interesting that in the observer countries, you have New Zealand, you have Australia, you have Canada, you have many countries that are members of TPP. This is telling you that those are parallel agreements that are complementing each other in the long term, because Alianza Pacifico is also designed to join the Americas and Asia. I believe that at the end, there will be conversions of many of these regional agreements, and definitely we hope that the multilateral trading system will start again moving ahead in the meetings in Bali with the World Trade Organization.
So you believe that the Pacific Alliance is going to be a building block and not a stumbling block for the TPP?
Definitely, just by looking at the observers that are included in the process.
And you also seem to believe that the Pacific Alliance is going to move faster in terms of concrete outcomes than TPP.
Well, just by the fact that in 3-4 weeks ago, August 25th and 26th, with the presence of the Minister of Foreign Affairs that are here with us, and the Ministers of the Economy and Trade, we just finished fully the trade and investment part of the agreement, which is a big component of the agreement. And definitely, I think we have to recognize the tremendous work of the 3 ministers with us today, Mexico. I don't see the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Peru, but also the Ministers of the Economy are here with us. So I think that you guys should take a standing ovation because we had finished.
Yes.
Please. And they are very shy.
Can I make
But let me give you a good example of what happened in Mexico immediately after agreeing on the elimination of visas. We basically eliminated the visas for Colombian citizens and Peruvian citizens. And since then, we have an increase of 65% in the number of tourists coming to Mexico after that decision has been made. So it's definitely not just trade and investment, but there are many areas that will help us to coordinate our actions to the future.
Thank you very much. President Santos, you wanted to say something.
There's an observation I wanted to make. I cannot resist the temptation when Minister Guajardo said, it's so difficult to be a minister. President Piñera and President Humala were not ministers before. I was 3 times minister. And let me tell you, it's much easier because if you have a problem, you call the president.
That's not what your minister told me.
That's why all ministers want to become president.
Let's move back to the Pacific. I would like to give each of you an opportunity to give us a very concrete example of what have you achieved recently that shows the pragmatism and how concrete this thing is. So whoever wants to start, give us examples of things that have happened recently that you have achieved in the Pacific Alliance.
Have you seen the joint advertising that we're doing for our tourism?
And I don't know if we can...
Is it ready? Could you put it? This is something unique, for example.
And spontaneous.
Do you have it?
Can we show it? Well, while they set it up, why don't you tell us a little bit about what President Santos, tell us a little bit about tourism.
No, we're trying to sell our 4 countries together, and I think we have a lot of assets to make us attractive in many respects, not only business-wise, not only investment, but
here it comes.
The economy, a region with an economic growth higher than the rest of the world. Combined, it exceeds a population of 210 million. The Pacific Alliance is the profitable and competitive future of your business. The secure and profitable future of your business is here. For more information, visit our website.
¿Hay otro?
I think we just saw the end of it.
A a multicultural journey of unmatched. The Pacific Alliance is the largest economic bloc in the Latin American region. It is a platform that generates opportunities for those member countries that begins at sea, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, and takes you back to an era, facilitating trade relations by exchanging goods, services, capital, and investment to promote further growth, development, and competitiveness of the economies. A region with an economic growth higher than the rest of the world. Combined, it exceeds a population of 210 million. The Pacific Alliance is the profitable and competitive future of your business. The secure and profitable future of your business is here. For more information, visit our website.
I rest my case.
Presidente Humala, díganos, denos algún ejemplo de algún logro concreto.
Bueno, yo creo que un ejemplo importante y que se ha llevado sobre todo de manera rápida ha sido en el tema de la educación. A pesar de que, digamos, es un bloque económico, la educación no es incompatible, más bien es un instrumento para mejorar nuestra fuerza económica. Y hoy día hemos creado, ya está en ejecución, un fondo para becas de jóvenes estudiantes de países miembros de la Alianza del Pacífico y que ya en estos momentos están llevando a cabo estudios a carreras que ellos han elegido libremente y que en su mayoría de casos están relacionados con lo que es la administración, el comercio, la economía. Y de ahí nosotros prevemos avanzar, claro, en una segunda etapa, rápidamente, en un sistema de mejora de la acreditación universitaria, reconocimiento de títulos, es decir, avanzamos en lo que es el concepto también de libre tránsito de ciudadanos y ciudadanas en nuestras regiones y que todos ellas tengan las mismas oportunidades a través de la capacitación para poder hacer una labor productiva y tener una herramienta que ayude al bienestar de sus familias.
Gracias, presidente Humala. Presidente Piñera, un ejemplo.
Well, first of all, we just decided that the five of us who are sitting in front of you will share the cost of that advertising, so welcome to Alliance Moises.
Thank you.
Well, there have been so many things that have been achieved in these last 2 years. One which I would like to emphasize is that the liberalization of 92% of our trade, and it will go to 99% within the next 7 years. But there is more to that, because the Pacific Alliance is not just a free trade for goods and services. It also is a free zone and free movement zone for capital and people. And President Humala was talking about all the visa agreement that we have already reached. But there is something I would like to emphasize, which is the integration of our capital markets. We already have what is called MILA, which is the integration of the stock exchanges of 3 of us, and the 4th one should be coming very soon. And something else in which we are working is the energy integration, because we want this alliance to be much more than a free trade zone. We want a deep and sound integration in many, many fields, and we are just starting. That's why I think that the best of the alliance is yet to come.
And I will tell you one small item which is very particular. We are the first group of countries who has already made a summit virtually. We are connected in our offices, and when we want to meet, we simply sit down in our offices and talk to each other, so we save quite a bit of time and quite a bit of tax money in our summits. We want to be practical. This is a very small but very indicative.
Yeah, but we lose a lot of fun.
It saves fuel. Secretary Guajardo, would you like, in addition to the visa liberalization between Colombia and Mexico, do you have, and Peru, do you have another example you would like to share?
I mean, basically, the presidents have said it all, but I will just point out to the fact that joining resources, we can expand and potentialize our presence in the world. One of the difficult challenges of my Minister of Foreign Affairs that is here with us is how to have Mexico presence around the world. In Africa, we just have 7 embassies. Together with Alianza and with the 3 other countries, we can join in a single roof, 1 embassy representing the 4th interest. So that will be a tremendous potential for us.
I have here your questions. Many of the questions from the audience have to do with infrastructure. And there is a question here that says that previous attempts at integration were very long on speeches and very short on concrete integration projects. That in order to integrate countries, you need to integrate infrastructure, electricity and telecommunications, the actual physical part of integration. What are your plans concerning that? Anyone? Presidente Humano.
Yo iniciaría simplemente lanzando una idea de que hoy día se avanza más, no es el primer intento de integración que ha habido en la región. A lo largo de la historia han habido muchos intentos, incluyendo en las épocas pre-republicanas con la construcción del Tahuantinsuyo y la aplicación de tecnologías, pero lo que creo que hoy día está convergiendo, coincidiendo, son 2 aspectos importantes, la voluntad y la capacidad. La voluntad política de 4 países que han alcanzado niveles de producción, de calidad, de bienestar similares y que están mirando hacia el futuro. Y esa voluntad política se apoya en una capacidad que hoy día nos lo da la tecnología, los medios a disposición. Justamente Juan Manuel estaba hablando de las reuniones virtuales, eso no se podía hacer en la época de los incas, lamentablemente, pero hoy día se puede hacer y nos hace ganar tiempo, y además hoy día lo que tenemos también es una fuerza en el ámbito de lo privado, una economía, un movimiento de capitales muy importantes y que son capitales de grandes compañías que tienen que invertir de todas maneras en algún sitio del planeta. Y el planeta está dividido en estados-naciones o estados nacionales. Y por lo tanto, lo que nosotros hemos construido, estos 4 países, es unas reglas de juego que tratamos de homologarlas, de hacerlas comunes, por ejemplo, inclusión financiera, buscando reglas tributarias similares, para generar pues un espacio en el cual nuestras empresas puedan internacionalizarse y competir también en el gran mercado, y las empresas que quieran venir al Perú, a Colombia, a Chile o a México puedan pues también encontrar reglas claras, independencia de poderes, fortalecimiento de la democracia y que haya la predictibilidad de la forma de actuar de sus gobernantes y de sus estados.
Infraestructura.
En el caso de la energía que mencionaba Sebastián, ese es un caso concreto donde la intención ya está para conectarnos los países y poder tener líneas de transmisión donde los países puedan o no comprar la energía, pero tener las líneas de transmisión. Esa es una ventaja comparativa que creo que tenemos porque somos países ricos en energía. Y energía, en el caso colombiano, pues energía relativamente barata, limpia, 70% de nuestra energía es hidráulica. Ahora con los nuevos inventos de energías alternativas hay unas oportunidades enormes de ser países muy eficientes en la producción de energía, lo cual nos hace también muy atractivos. Ese es un tema. El tema de las conexiones aéreas, porque físicamente las carreteras de Chile a México pues no es tan fácil. Tenemos que atravesar el Amazonas, Perú y Colombia, pero hay por otro lado, sí se pueden ver cómo podemos conectarnos rápidamente en la parte de las compañías aéreas. Ya hay convenios, México, Colombia, por ejemplo, ya está en un aumento de frecuencias casi que acelerado. Las tarifas han bajado 60-70%, el tráfico se ha multiplicado y ese tipo de integración es cada vez más fácil y más interesante.
President Piñera, I have several questions asking for a roadmap, asking what to expect. What are you going to do next? What are the specific next steps? When are you going to sign the broad agreement? What's going to happen next?
Well, as I mentioned before, this is just starting. We have so many things to do. For instance, we hope that we will be able to sign this free trade zone within the next 40 days.
Yep, November.
At the most, in November. Maybe we should do it in October. There is no reason to wait until November.
More job for
But
the ministers.
for instance, we are trying to integrate our customs system. Many times you build the tunnel, which costs billions, and you save 20 minutes and you lose 40 minutes in the next custom. So we are integrating our customs, so there will be only one custom for the two countries and not two like it is today. We have to integrate our energy sector because that's another commodity that has to be part of this free trade zone, and the same thing with air transport. Because the real integration in many senses, because of the nature of our country and the mountains and the rivers, is that we will have to have a very efficient and integrated air service for not only for goods, but also for people. On the other hand, as Minister Guajardo was mentioning, and by the way, President Santos, if you were so happy being a minister, why did you become a president?
My wife asks me that every day.
Jose, we will have to ask his wife whether he's going to run again or not. So basically what we need to do now is not free trade because we already have accomplished that, but it's to integrate our countries in many different aspects: capital market, stock exchange, customs, energy, air transportation, schools and scholarships, to recognize our titles in one country and from another. So basically what we want to create is, without losing our own identity and personality and being always an open alliance, is to be able to take advantage of the joining of forces. For instance, we have already opened our first embassy, which is shared by the 4 countries, because there are many that are shared by between 2 or 3 countries. But the first one, which is shared by the 4 countries, is the embassy that has just started in Ghana, and the same thing with a commercial office in Istanbul. So we will be able really to address and to penetrate the Asia-Pacific world, which is something very important for us, joining forces. But that's what we have to think about today. How many more ideas will come tomorrow, we don't know. And we will hope that, excuse me, we are interfering with somebody. Good. Because one thing which is very important, we are fully aware that the government has to set the rules and create the opportunities. But the integration, the real integration, has to be done by the private sector. So we want to hear from you very much what next step you think will be to your advantage in the sense of creating more value, more employment, and therefore, for instance, in terms of foreign investment, I can guarantee you that in the 4 countries, we do have a very friendly approach to foreign investment. We have countries where not only democracy, but the rule of law is very, very important. And therefore, that's why we are attracting a very large proportion of total foreign investment going to Latin America. For instance, last year in Chile, we were able to receive $30 billion. Second only to Brazil, which received $60 billion. But that Brazil is 10 times larger than Chile. So you see that foreign investment is also part of this Pacific Alliance, because we fully realize that we want to integrate ourselves not only in terms of goods and services, but also in terms of capital markets, and foreign investment is a very important part of that.
President Piñera, you asked the audience to tell you what do they want and what suggestions do they have. And I have two questions that are very concrete. One is about medical products. The person asks, do you see the possibility of harmonizing the regulatory approval processes for medical products between the Pacific Alliance countries, rather than each country repeating the same approval process? Who wants to answer that?
I will. I think yes. The purpose is to try to become one unit in every respect. Sanitary permits, customs procedures, and even we were talking with the members of our business board just before coming to this meeting. They were starting to ask, can we start thinking of making our tax systems homogeneous? And I said, this is not an easy step, but yes, we should strive to become homogeneous in almost everything, for any investor to feel that once they come into Mexico, they come into Chile, or they come into Peru, they come into Colombia. I think that's the objective. Of course, we have to start identifying each item, such as the one you just mentioned, medical approvals for different medicines. We have different health systems. In the case of Colombia, we just put a system whereby we regulate the prices of some of the products. But the purpose, the objective is to become one unit.
Basically, when you start a free trade area, just like Mexico did it 20 years ago with the US, the natural process takes you to the integration of productive processes. Today it was very interesting when I was accompanying President Santos with the business group that is part of the alliance. They were saying inter-regional trade today is just 4% of the total trade Mexico, Peru, Chile, and Colombia are making, which is just giving you an idea of the potential to grow through measures of trade facilitation, like standardization of norms, like make it borders more friendly for trade, custom administration facilitation. So today, even at the WTO, one of the main goals for the Bali meeting in December is exactly trade facilitation, because that is the key to change from free trade zone to productive integration process in a region.
Thank you. Sí, por favor.
Yo, simplemente para complementar, la tendencia es a la búsqueda de una homologación de procesos en toda la región, en temas de acreditación, temas aduaneros en general, y también poder trabajar algo que está dando resultados en el Perú, que son las asociaciones público-privadas, que permiten dinamizar más las inversiones en diferentes ámbitos, infraestructura, etcétera, y que el Estado, el gobierno pueda acompañar, y creo que eso puede ser un tema interesante que podría crear una diferencia más de lo que es la Alianza del Pacífico con otros bloques.
And the next concrete question I have is for President Piñera and President Humala. It says, Peru has a lot of gas, Chile needs gas. Will the alliance help the sales of gas by Peru to Chile?
You are talking about selling, not buying, so President Humala has to answer that. We are ready to buy.
President Humala, are you ready to sell?
Sí, pero depende cuándo quiere pagar por el gas. No, yo pienso que es importante, acá, si es una alianza, es un compromiso de desarrollo regional, transparente, de amistad, y que es lo que lo venimos construyendo, creo que con Chile. Hemos venido colocando las relaciones más allá de la Alianza del Pacífico en una posición pocas veces vistas en la historia, y creo que eso debe continuar así. Esa es la voluntad del gobierno de Chile, la voluntad del gobierno del Perú, y por eso estamos juntos también en la Alianza del Pacífico.
Presidente.
Well, I think that there is some kind of political special sensibility with respect to energy. And that's something we have to get rid of, that's my impression. Because in our case, of course, we will pay you more than the price we are receiving President Tumala from Mexico right now. I can guarantee you that. Because you are sending the gas all the way to Mexico, and we are right across the border. So, but there is one thing which I think is very important. The Pacific Alliance is a mean. The main objective, I think, of our country is to become developed country, defeat poverty, create more equality of opportunities, and for that we need to join forces. For instance, in the case of Chile, Chile is a country with 20,000 per capita income right now. Chile was the poorest Spanish colony and has become the country with the highest per capita income. And our target, our goal, is to be able to defeat poverty and become a developed country before the end of this decade. So we are really moving and working very hard in that direction, and that's the same mission or the same purpose of all the countries in the world, but particularly the countries in the Pacific Alliance, because since we are growing at 5-6%, that's a very feasible target. It's not something for the next century, but it's something that we will be able to accomplish within this decade or the next decade. And for that, we need to really integrate ourselves. In terms of energy, in the northern part of Chile, we have a stock of projects, investment projects that amounts for more than $100 billion. And the key aspect in order to be able to develop that, which is based in the mining sector, but it needs infrastructure, water, and energy. We need more energy. That's why we are putting a lot of effort in developing, and really it has been extremely successful, these new sources of renewable, clean energy. Because Chile was a poor country in terms of the old sources of energy, fossil fuels like coal, gas, oil. But we are extremely rich in terms of solar energy, wind energy, and the technology is improving so rapidly that right now, solar energy in the northern part of Chile, because we have the skies, the cleanest skies in the world, and we have the desert with the highest radiance, solar radiance in the world, and therefore we have already been able to produce a solar energy industry which is 100% competitive. But of course, we can integrate our energy sector with Peru, so I'm ready when you are, President Tumala. And with Colombia, of course.
We do have that objective of connecting via Ecuador, which we are already selling energy to Ecuador, go to Peru and go to the north of Chile. This is something that we have been discussing, and I hope it would become a reality very soon.
Sí, yo pienso que hoy día la región de América Latina y en concreto la alianza, los países de la región de la Alianza del Pacífico son países que tienen una fortaleza en lo que son recursos naturales. Y históricamente hemos apostado a los recursos naturales. Tal vez no hemos recibido lo que esperábamos. Si hiciéramos un balance, todos los pueblos aspirábamos a tener niveles de vida óptimos. Y no es que lo ponga en crítica, sino que creo que debemos ser más ambiciosos. Por lo tanto, nosotros aspiramos a un proceso de fortalecer las industrias. Y creo que en el tema de la energía, como en otros temas más, tenemos que fortalecer la industrialización de estas materias primas y obviamente ponerlas a disposición de los países hermanos que por razones distintas no la tienen o tienen otro tipo de energía que puede ser más cara. Por lo tanto, nosotros creemos que la Alianza del Pacífico es una voluntad que involucra también un compromiso de desarrollarnos mutuamente. Y en ese sentido, si el presidente Piñera ha dicho que va a pagar más, le tomo su palabra.
One last question. I have several of you in the audience have asked about the economic consequences of security issues and citizen safety and crime. Specifically, some of the questions are addressed, of course, to Mexico and Colombia concerning the security situation, and if there's anything that can be done through the alliance to strengthen your fight against organized crime and against citizens' safety. President Santos and then Secretary Guajardo.
We have already put in place a system whereby we share information.
Yes.
We share real-time information on, for example, our immigration procedures, whereby if somebody who has some kind of problem with the Colombian justice system wants to go into Mexico, Chile, or Peru, immediately he'll be identified, and we are today already connected. Of course, we are collaborating very closely with Mexico in the fight against drug trafficking, with Peru also. Chile does not have the same level of problems that we have, but the potential is always there, and we have to collaborate very closely. In the case of Mexico, I think the collaboration has been extremely effective, and we almost every day have missions coming and going and identifying the organized crime groups that we want to target, and we have been quite effective in dismantling those groups. This is an ongoing process. You cannot lower your guard. You must persevere there, and I think this is what we are doing in Colombia. If you compare the statistics of what we have done in the last years, it is incredible how much we can have dismantled groups that were dedicated to drug trafficking, organized. We have reduced 70% of the production of coca in Colombia. We have dismantled many of the groups. All of the leaders of these criminal bands that were operating a year and a half ago are in jail or dead. On our war against the FARC and the ELN, the two guerrilla groups, they are at the weakest point in their history. We are trying to negotiate an end to the conflict in the case of Colombia. If we achieve that, one specific point that we included in the agenda with the FARC was drug trafficking. They have been signaled as the biggest cartel in the world. They say they are not drug traffickers. So we said, okay, you're not drug traffickers, let's negotiate the problem of drug trafficking. If we reach an agreement, I hope that in a way they will change sides and become allies of the state against drug trafficking. This will have a tremendous, tremendous impact, positive impact, not only in Colombia, the whole region, in Mexico, because can you imagine the FARC, instead of protecting the coca fields now, helping to control the drug trafficking? This would be a major change, a positive change towards more security in the region.
Yeah, in the new strategy to fight organized crime, one of the instruments that has become key in this strategy is intelligence building. And this process of very close communication with the countries of Alianza had really strengthened the information that we share to fight organized crime. Organized crime is a challenge that you cannot face it just domestically. Its own nature is worldwide. And therefore, you really have to share information and really design your policies. Within this context, I believe that one of the elements that President Peña had made his priority is to reduce in Mexico the level of violence that is concentrated mainly in 3 states in the country, and the purpose is to reduce the signs of that violence. But I think that this collaboration is of the most importance to keep fighting organized crime.
Thank you. So we are out of time, but before closing, I wanted to give each of you an opportunity to give us a parting message, a central idea that we should live with from each one of you. Whoever wants to start. Why don't we start in order, President Humala? Why don't you, Presidente? Humala, ¿por qué no comienza usted?
No, I think that the minister will start because the presidents are too important. So basically I will say just in one message that Alianza Pacifico is a fresh of breath air in Latin America. It is just by the fact that today we have 20 observers, country observers. The last UNCTAD joined, thanks to the approval of the presidents, was China and the US. That is sending a very relevant signal of the importance that this region is showing to the world. And one of the things that is being noticed is the pragmatism that has come along with it. We started trade negotiations less than a year and a half ago, and we had just finished it because we went straight for solutions, and I think we have made a tremendous accomplishment. So thanks to the leadership of the presidents here and President Peña Nieto, I think that we'll be able in October to claim basically this task fully finished.
Thank you. President Piñera.
Well, first of all, please bring our sympathy and support to the Mexican people and to President Peña Nieto, because you know that Mexico has been hit by huge hurricanes and the forces of nature. At the same time, please bring him our congratulations because he made the right decision to stay where he has to be, where he is most needed. Second, with respect to the Pacific Alliance, this is just starting. And what is very important is that we don't sleep in our laurels. We have accomplished a lot in 1 year, but we need to keep pushing and moving forward. And from that respect, we have to avoid the temptation that when we talk about integration in Latin America, there are two big mistakes that we have done in the past, and we have to learn from them. The first one is that the government has to decide who is going to produce what, who is going to do that, and who is going to do another thing. In this case, we are not trying to do so. We are trying to create the conditions, we are trying to reach agreements, but it's the private sector, free enterprise, innovation, private initiative that has to give flesh and body to this economic integration. And the second thing, which is very important also, is that many times when you are talking about integration, every country is trying to protect their exports and doesn't want to import. At the end of the day, that doesn't work. So we have to include everything: goods, services, capital markets, infrastructure, energy, air transportation, in the same agreement. At the same time, we have to standardize many procedures in order to reduce transaction costs between us and reduce transaction costs, because at the end of the day, we will have to join forces in the sense of integrating many of our industry in order to be able to compete with the rest of the world. And the last message I would like to mention is that foreign investment is very important, not only because of financial resources. We basically, that's not the most important thing at this time in our history. The most important thing is that we want to attract is technology, innovation, entrepreneurship capacity, openness to markets. And that's why I would like to emphasize that the Pacific Alliance is not against anybody. It's on the contrary. It's a dynamic and open alliance, but we don't want to reduce the speed at which we are moving. And that's why whoever wants to join the Pacific Alliance will have to share the same principles and values, but at the same time share the same attitude with which we have addressed up to now this Pacific Alliance.
Thank you, President Piñera.
I would like to stress the values and the principles that we share and the privileged position that we are in right now. These are the 4 countries that are the best performers of the whole of Latin America, with strong economies. There's tremendous confidence in each and every economy of the Pacific Alliance. The proof was that in the last weeks, after the Fed changed its policies and there was a bit of a turmoil in the financial markets, the average of other emerging markets, how much of the spreads went up was around 240 points. In these 4 countries was half of that, 120 points. We have the highest credit ratings of the whole area of Latin America. And we're just beginning, as Sebastián was saying, we're just beginning to create synergies. That's what we hope to do. By uniting, by strengthening our integration, we create synergies. We hope that the American entrepreneurs, the businessmen, look south and see the enormous potential, strategic potential that these 4 countries, the Pacific Alliance, represents in terms of markets, in terms of investment opportunities. I must confess, a bit sad yesterday when President Obama did not mention Latin America one single time in his speech. He mentioned China, he mentioned the Pacific, he mentioned the Middle East, he mentioned not one country nor the word Latin America was mentioned in his speech. The strategic interest for the United States, the real strategic interest lies south of Rio Grande. And you are businessmen, you know where the opportunities are. Here, the Pacific Alliance has a great opportunity, and we hope you see that the same way we do.
Thank you, President Santos. President Humala.
Bueno, lo que yo podría señalar es primero de que en un mundo con ciertas incertidumbres económicas que se viene dando, la Alianza del Pacífico es un área de oportunidades. Dentro de todo este cielo que puede estar lleno de nubes, en la Alianza del Pacífico el panorama es mejor. Y este es un bloque económico que lo que busca es alentar, fortalecer la inversión nacional y la inversión extranjera. Y este es un camino que ya no es que lo hayamos inventado los gobiernos, sino que hemos interpretado y tratamos de alentar y fortalecer un camino que se viene construyendo gracias a las fuerzas productivas de nuestros países. Y creo que este espacio se convierte hoy en día en un espacio, una plataforma de oportunidades para las inversiones que hoy día no encuentran dónde colocarse en otros países. Y por último, señalar lo que siempre digo, que solos se puede ir rápido, pero juntos podemos avanzar más lejos y mejor.
I'm sure that all of us in this room have very good reasons to be skeptic about a bunch of presidents promising Latin American integration. It has happened for too many decades in the past to induce our skepticism. But I also have the feeling that this time may be different, that we have heard 3 heads of state and the Minister of the Economy of Mexico representing his president, making very concrete ideas and offering very concrete steps and already showing a lot of progress for a very short time. So we will be watching and hoping and congratulating you for the leadership and for the way you're moving forward. And it's very important for the region and perhaps beyond the region and beyond your countries that you are successful. I think I interpret the mood in the room when I convey to you our congratulations and our hope that you are successful. Please join me in thanking the President.